Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 244 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. Welcome to another week of live hacking on Firefox. Another episode, rather. This episode is not a week long, I promise. It will certainly be shorter than that. But welcome to another episode of The Joy of Coding. It's so good to have you here. Let's get started. Let me share my agenda. Or share my screen, rather. Right. Today is March 24th, 2021. And for new viewers, people who might be joining us for the first time, I just wanted to let you know, no plan survives breakfast. This Joy of Coding episode series is very loosey-goosey, low production value. Think The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross, where it's like happy mistakes are okay. And, you know, I have a sense of what I want to do today, but I might get stuck. We might get sidelined. We might not get very far, but we're going to try. We're going to capture software development in the raw without any real polish, you know, warts and all. So I'm happy to have you here while we progress along this potentially bumpy road. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the agenda that we're looking at with all its handy links is available to you depending on where you are viewing this stream. It might be in a couple of different places. If you're watching this on YouTube, there will be a link in the video description. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, there's a, I think, details tab or something along the left, or maybe it's along the bottom of the screen. I think it really depends. And for the folks on Twitch, I have a link for you. Hold on, that's Wacky Morning DJ. Agenda of episode 244. Let me just drop that agenda link into the live chat. So that should now be in the Twitch live chat, assuming that my Joy of Coding mirror bot is working, which I don't think it is. Hold on a second. My chat mirror bot is not working. Let me just try and sort that out real quick. I should have tested that beforehand, and I didn't. I had assumed it was working, but it's not. So one moment. If you're talking in Twitch, I cannot unfortunately see you. So let me just give this thing a quick kick. Bridgebot settings. All right, let's see if that worked. I'm now going to go to Twitch and just check the chat. And I apologize. I should have had more. I had this tested, but let me see here. Bridgebot test. And it looks like the answer is no. So I guess what I'll do in the meantime, I'll just have a separate Twitch chat window open. And we will not worry about the Bridgebot for now. So I will be monitoring both the Twitch chat and the live hacking chat. Sorry about that. One of those things where, you know, not going according to plan, but that's okay. So let me just quickly drop the agenda into the Twitch chat. There it is. And let's keep going. Let's keep going. What I wanted to work on today is a retheme of the bookmark button, or rather the bookmark panel. Let me show you what I mean. Let me just pull up my latest patches, or make sure that I've got the latest patches built. I actually want this one. I've kind of got some of this underway already, where I've been trying to make the bookmarks panel look more, follow some of the visual guidelines we've been getting for the Proton retheme, which, if you're curious what that is, take a look at my browser. It's, you know, what I'm about to launch here. It kind of gives you a sense of it. So let's see here. What did I want to show? This is the panel that we're working on today. And I've already done some of the work, you know, like I've started retheming the buttons and the text inputs. And I want to do some polish work. So right now, like this gap is too big. I think these text inputs might actually be a little bit too tall. And I think whenever we unfold these things, like these checkboxes are not correct. These are using the sort of old school native looking checkboxes that are not like these checkboxes. So we want those to be more consistent and to use this style of checkbox. And then over here in this tree, I think this is mostly staying the same actually. This button might have to change. We'll look into that. But let's start here. What I'm gonna do is start by looking at this button, these buttons. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do is let's take a look at the patch first that I've written so far so we can kind of get a sense of how it works. And if you're wondering why that panel is staying up, by the way, I've got a special sort of dev checkbox enabled in the browser toolbox that allows me to keep the panel open with disable panel, pop-up auto hide, which is very handy for development. So that's why that's still there. But I'm actually going to shut down for a second so I can show you the patch. And there is a bug for this. If you check the agenda, I linked to the bug. I don't have the patch posted. I'm going to post the patch that I've got, submit this one, but I'm going to mark it as a work in progress, and it's just the single patch. And then we're going to look at the patch together to see where I am with it. Let me just turn off my notifications. Right, so we can take a look at the patch and get a sense of what's already been done and maybe what still needs to happen. Okay, so this is the work in progress patch. Let me just copy that link. Scoop. Okay. So the first thing I did was I added a panel button if folder menu list, add panel button. Right. So I had to I made it so that the we want to support both old and like the existing style of the browser as well as the Proton restyle. So we have to kind of jockey around and support both for a little while until we fully transition. So there's some code in here that's like applying a class if and only if Proton is not enabled, and that's to support the old look. And so yeah, it removes the class here by default. So that's this attribute. And that's mainly, these lines are for this drop-down, this menu list, which is styled differently now. All right, let's get this out of here. And then I removed some rules here regarding inputs. Right, so the inputs in particular are these two inputs. It looks like I removed some rules there, and instead I moved them into this block where it's like, hey, if Proton is not enabled, then apply those rules. And that's us, like, excuse me, that's us supporting pre-Proton for at least a little while we work on this stuff. And same with this rule, although I think this is just for Mac OS. These rules are specific to Mac OS, it looks like. On Windows, I think there's the inputs look a little bit different. And then what did I do? I got rid of these minimum dimensions and put them inside of this pre-Proton block. The rest of it we keep, for now at least. And then this is a shared style sheet. So this is true across all platforms, Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. And what am I doing? I say, okay, if Proton is enabled, then we're going to set this font, and we're going to set these rules. And already I can tell there are a couple things I need to update here. So one of the things that we're also trying to do is, you know, we're changing these inputs. We also want to make them look correct with dark theme. So I'll give you an example of what it's supposed to look like with dark theme. I'm going to enable Proton Dark. This is the Proton Dark theme. And then if you look at the, well, actually, let me find you a better example. If I go to permission, no, I'll use the password input. So this is what they're supposed to look like in the dark theme. You know, they're a little more subtle, a little more stark. And if you've got like a different, like an Alpenglow theme or something, then it looks like a little more, you know, a little more old school, what we used to show. And if you're using the default theme, it's supposed to look like this. And if you're using, well, those are the only ones I have installed. So that's the idea. And that's what we want to do here is we want to make sure that the bookmarks panel also behaves whenever you have dark mode enabled. And right now I don't think it does. Like if I could do that and I open up the panel, then I've still got these bright backgrounds here, and this text is completely unreadable. There's actually some text here. I don't think you can see it, but there is some text. It is not readable, so we're going to want to fix that. This is the text. Use tags to organize and search for bookmarks from the address bar is the text. And then there's like some general spacing. So let's start with making the text inputs have the correct background color if you have dark mode. We'll start there. Danny Colin asks, is it behind a sub Proton pref? It looks different on Nightly Linux. The panel right now, the panel work is behind a pref. What is it? This one. Browser Proton door hangers enabled. But all of this work is currently in flight. Like you're not going to see any of these changes until this patch lands. So like that's why you might not be seeing what I'm seeing if you have that pref flipped. And the text inputs for the password dialog on Linux, at least, I believe we fall back by default to the default field colors. But if you've got Proton Dark enabled, then you'll see what I was showing with the sort of dark background. Anyways, let's not get distracted. Let's take a look at the rule where we were applying styles to the inputs. If Proton is enabled, that's here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add some simple rules that change the background color appropriately depending on whether or not dark mode is enabled. So this is in a file called edit.bookmarkpanelinc.css. So let's open that up. And we'll find the right block. That's this one. And what we want to do is effectively what we did for the save password, panel as well. And so we can copy some of those rules here. I just have to find them. And I believe what we're looking for is, I just added this the other day, is not the buttons, it's the inputs. Where are the inputs? I think they're at the... Not here. I think it was password panel. It was in browserinc.css. Sorry, wrong file. And it was on line like 905. So over here, we set a background color of input BG color, and if that variable is not defined, then we fall back to field, which is a system color. It's sort of like a safe system color, and that's for things like high contrast mode, where whenever we detect that the user is in high contrast mode, we don't set this variable, and so we fall back to a system color that makes sense. And same thing with the color of the text in the text input. So let's apply that. Whoops. And the focus rings, I did something similar over here. We actually want to change some of the rules slightly to be similar to what I had for these, which is to use focus visible rather than focus ring, because that's more, we're not using sort of a Mozilla specific thing. We want to use standards where possible, and we want to apply the same rules, which are they? outline 2px solid focus outline color. 2px solid focus outline color. And then we don't want to change the offset. We don't want to change the offset. And then we've got the right border here, input border color, 3D shadow. That looks right. Okay, let's build and take a look at how that looks. Actually, you know what I should do? Because we're doing all this styling, let me go in Mozilla Central and go mock watch. And that will make it so I don't have to do mock build every time. I'll do it for now just for safety's sake. And then I will run. And then I can just like restart every time rather than running build every time. Saves a little time. All right, so the panel. Okay, it doesn't look like the right focus rule is being applied. I may have gotten that wrong. Input. Oh, I got too many colons there. So let me fix that. Restart. Try again. That's better. That's better. And then we want to see what dark mode looks like. So dark mode, proton dark. That's right. That's what we want it to look like. Now, this text is completely unreadable, so we're going to want to look at that. But I don't think I want to do that just yet. I think I want to focus more on padding and spacing right now. So let's do that. Let's disable proton dark. And by padding and spacing, I think I mean what is supposed to be around the edges. Let's take a quick peek here in my notes. Sorry, I've got some off-screen notes here. I apologize. Okay, apparently we want 8 pixels all the way around the panel, except at the top where it's supposed to be 16. So 8 pixels, and what do we have right now? I'm gonna pull up Xscope. This is a fun tool. We can measure the bottom here. Yeah, I've got 19. That's way too much. So it's way too sort of padded out, and it's not enough up here. So we need to reduce the size. So let's start with that. The padding, I believe, is something that we can control with a CSS variable. And we can do it live. So this HBox, let's see if we can take a look at the body. Does not have any padding. The panel header, the content, the panel itself doesn't have any padding. If I put, where is that padding coming from? If I put an outline around things, sometimes that makes it easier to see. So it actually doesn't have any padding. It's the contents that have the padding. And then what about the bottom? Bottom buttons. It has this margin. So there are all these like margins along the side of 16. And I think that's too high. So if I go 8, 8, pull out Xscope. Better, but not quite. That's correct over here. Something along the bottom is still too high. There might be a margin or a margin elsewhere or something else going on with these buttons. So let's take a quick peek. Turn off dimensions. The buttons themselves have a bottom margin of 3. That would do it. So let's see what happens if I say like panel, background color, button, margin inline. I say margin block. Zero. I think that did it. Yep, that looks right. Cool, cool, cool. Browser Toolbox is so bugging with pop-up panels. I'm not sure what you mean. But yeah, okay, we're on our way here. So let me start by seeing how that affects other panels, because that might actually be a change that only is supposed to happen here on the bookmarks panel. Let's take a quick peek at some of our permissions panels. How do I hide scope there? Okay, so let's pull up like this one. So according to this, let me look at my notes again. It's supposed to be the padding at the bottom. (16) for the other one. So that's the problem, is that we want a slightly different padding at the bottom of some of these panels, I believe. Let me just double check these other notes. Yeah, it needs to be 16 for the permission panels, and we want 8 for the bookmarks panel, which might seem weirdly inconsistent, but I think it's because there's a lot of content inside of the bookmarks panel, and so we're making a conscious trade there. Yeah, 8 around the edge just for the bookmarks panel. Okay, so some of the rules that I just applied, they are not correct. They are not what we want for everybody, just for the bookmarks panel. So let me restart again. So just for the bookmarks panel, we're going to be special casing the bookmarks panel to have 8 around the edge. What's the easiest way to do that? We're going to update the rules for the bottom buttons, and we're going to say margin 8px, 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 I believe that will do. And then we have to update these buttons to have 0 margin. I think that might be easiest. So let's see. Let's find this rule here. And oh, I see. Bottom buttons, bottom content. We only want what I'm doing to apply whenever Proton is enabled. So padding block 0. We're going to say bottom buttons, margin, what did I say? 8px, 8px, 8px. And then we're going to say for the buttons themselves, a margin block of 0, I think. do that? It's the easiest way to do that and simulate it. Something like here, margin block 0. Now, what's that going to do to this space between here and here? We've got a dimension of, turn back on. I think it's 16 roughly. Is that right? That's what we want? Roughly, yeah. Okay. So I think that's fine. That's fine, this rule of margin block 0 on just these buttons. So that's what we'll do. So these buttons are bottom buttons. I don't think I have any special rules for those yet, but I'll say button margin block 0. All right, let us restart. Okay, looking better, looking better. Now, we also want to reduce the amount of padding around the edges on the side here. So let's take a quick peek at how those are showing up. I think each of these individual items might have paddings or margins. Where's the rows? It's the rows. Individual row. So if I say instead of having padding 16, 16, 16, how about if I say you have padding, like, first of all, where's that rule coming from? Padding, oh, here. I'm going to override that. And instead, we're going to say 8px, 8px, 16px? No. How do I get just the top one to be 16? That one. All right. And what do we think here? That looks right. That's right. That's wrong right there. Checkbox is wrong. This input's wrong. I have a feeling a lot of these inputs have some like left margin that we're gonna have to adjust. This is also wrong, this screenshot. This is about right at the top. So I think that gets us closer. So this rule, what we're gonna do is we're gonna override panel bottom content. Now, didn't I just padding block 0? Yeah. I'm gonna update rows to have padding 16px, 8px, 8px. And I can probably start drawing these values from maybe some CSS variables. Instead of having to repeat that value all over the place. I have a feeling we have some CSS variables, but I'll start with just putting in the raw numbers first. Okay. And where are the margins coming from on, say, this checkbox? Content. Okay, so that's too high still. The padding is too high. Padding block. So instead of 16px, 8px, 8px, I think it's supposed to be 0, 8px, 8px. No? Oh, not padding block, but padding. 0, 8px, 8px. That looks right, at least along the left side. It's maybe even still too far. Again, let's pull out Xscope and take a look. Yeah, it's 2 pixels off. I got a feeling there's a little bit of a margin just before the checkbox, but we can remove that. So bottom content, we're going to say padding 0 8px 8px. That gets us closer. Restart. All right. Checkbox. Does this have a margin? It does. That's our problem. Is the bottom content checkbox. And what about this other stuff? Like, I bet all of these things have margins. Yeah, that has a margin of 2. Like, we want to collapse all of the margins. Along with the labels, the menu lists, the inputs. Okay, so how do we want to do that? Well, we already have some things for the inputs here, so maybe we can apply the same ruling. So, oh, we already have no margin here. Where's the margin input? Oh, it is on the input. Okay, so we're going to remove the margin. We're going to say margin inline 0. That looks right. So we can do that here. And now we'll remove it from this one as well, I would imagine. Let me see what's going on with this one. Tags field. It's got a margin at the end of 16. That seems unusual. Yeah, it looks like this one is special cased. So if I get rid of that, so let's find where this rule is applied. Margin tags field. 16 pixels. Where is that rule being set? And what file am I in? I'm in a file called places.css. I'll bet you that's the no, I have no idea. Places.css. Okay. It's this file. I need, and is this global? Is, yeah, for everyone. We're going to make this we're going to get rid of this because this is only if Proton modals is enabled. Oh, this was added by Mika from the modal version of this dialog. Let's take a look at what that is. So the modal version of this dialog, to be clear, is this. And it looks like there's like an intentional 16 pixel gap here. I don't want to disturb what Mika's doing in here. So what I'll do instead is tags field. So I'll override that. Margin inline 0. Let's take a look. here. Oh, that's now too much. Like we've completely eaten up. Hold on. That's not right at all. Well, it's close. That might be a rounding error, but I think we're close to 8 pixels here. We're not there. That's 8 pixels, but this is too small now. So I need to have an inline margin that's not just 0. I need it to be something else. I thought I would get it for free by setting it to 0, and I was wrong. So the input has padding, but it has no margin at the end. The button has a margin of 4. I think what I'll do is I will make it so that the margin of the buttons, margin inline start of the buttons, is the full width. Margin inline. Expander up, expander down. Say margin inline start a margin of 8px, because I think that's the distance, right? Just check. No, 4px. It wants 4px. Okay. Well, what do we have right now? It's probably way too small. What is it right now? Oh, 4px. So that's actually correct, according to the spec. And this one's too big. 6. All right. Well, let's shrink this one down then. 2, and then it's probably 4 on the left. So we need to change the margin inline on the menu list. So we can get rid of this. And the menu list margin just 0. We don't want any margin now. So let's take a look. It's in a book, Reading Rainbow. Better. Is that consistent? That looks like a bigger gap to me. 4, 3. What the heck? Yeah, that's wrong. Oh, it's a little bit wide. Maybe, yeah, I'll bet you what's going on is there is a slight rounding error. 76.5, 302.5 width on the menu list. No, 302.5 on both. They're both the same width. Menu list. Border is 0. Huh. Both 32. I wonder, let me just zoom in for a second. This might break the world. What is going on? Does this button have any special rules on it? 4. This one. 4. If I don't have focus on it, let's look at the outline rule on this. Border radius, outline 1px, it's solid, no border. If I get rid of the outline, or if I do like outmos outline offset -1px, can I do that? Or is it just outline offset? That looks a little bit, that looks better, but that's not what I expect to need to do, because yeah, it's too, it's not what I expect. One moment. A mystery. Let's, I guess, not focus on that for now, and instead we'll leave it as it is. I'm gonna get rid of that rule. A mystery for now. It's possible that this text input might be too large. But what I want to focus on instead is the fact that this button is too small. This button's the right size. This button's too small. It's 32 by 32. It's also 32 by 32. What? My tool's lying to me. It's the same size. It's just the text fields, one is taller than the other. That I can believe. 32. 32 plus the outline. I think that's the problem. Okay. The text input is too large here. If I go back to the demo password input here, how big are these? Oh, that's right. 32 by 32. Maybe I got those wrong. I think I got them wrong. I think they're supposed to be 32 in total, including the outline. I think that's what's happened. So maybe I do need that offset by 1. Like if I outline, I set outline offset -1 px. I think that's actually what we're supposed to have. And then the focus appearance, is that right? I think that's right. So having applied that, if we then look at this, I think I need to do the same thing. Set the outline offset of this text input to be -1 px, and then everything lines up correctly. And I think that's the problem. That is the problem. Okay. Figured it out. Figured it out, everyone. You were saying that the first input has borders? Does it? No, it doesn't have a border. Okay, so what are we going to do here? What we need to do is we need to say outline offset -1px. We need to do the same thing for pop-up notifications. Outline. Or wait, was in browser? Yeah, it's over here. Outline offset -1px. Okay, let's restart. You were saying the second one has a border. Second input has a border? Is that true? I don't see a border. Let me know if I'm missing something. Okay, so our spacing looks right now. At least here. 4 pixels and 4 pixels. 8 pixels, 8 pixels, 8 pixels, 8 pixels, 8 pixels, 8 pixels. Okay, the image here, I think there's too much padding there. These labels have too much margin. So you need to fix the alignment there. And we are slowly but surely getting there, though. There might be too much white space here, too. Okay, let's start with these labels. Do they have a class or something? That'd be nice. Control. No. It's just a row. Panel rows. So I'm going to say under bookmark panel. Is there anything here for labels? Label margin inline start 0. Reload. Better. Better. 9 pixels. I wonder if that's just rounding because of things. Yeah, like the overhangs. I think we have to do it that way. Okay. Now the margins at the bottom, 5 pixels there, 7 pixels there. What's the margin supposed to be at the bottom? Looks right. Tags. Is there a special one on this? And this one looks a little bit larger. Tags, margin, 2 at the bottom. And if we look at the location row, the label has a margin of 2 at the bottom. Okay. What about this? Does it have a margin above? Hbox. Outline 1px solid red. There is some kind of margin or padding just above it. That's interesting. Where's that coming from? Yeah, the input. The input above and below. So we're going to say margin in totality margin 0. I think that will slurp that up a little bit. So that was rules. All right, down here, we're going to set the margin to 0 here. And this little guy, what are you? A caption. So we're gonna apply the same thing for label. Where's that? Tags row. Hbox. Restart. Okay, starting to come together here. We got ourselves. We're cooking with gas. Now, what about the spacing here? What's that supposed to be? It's supposed to be quite a bit, collapse quite a bit more. I actually don't know if that text is supposed to be displayed here anymore, this caption. Let me just check. Okay, yeah, we can have them, I think. And the spacing looks right. But the spacing below, I think each individual chunk of the panel is supposed to be spaced. Let's see here. What's the distance between the bottom of tags and, say, the checkbox? That 12, it says 12, and then the bottom of here and up there. Oh, 16 minus, oh, I see. 16, 16, 16, except for that one, which is supposed to be a distance of, sorry, I apologize, I'm doing so much of this off screen. It's not cool. 12. 16. Okay, so the distance between here and here should be 16 pixels. That's too compact. Six and 6.5, it says. Is that something that applies to the modal as well? I worry. Maybe not. Where did this come from? Put new header style by the input fields from DAO. Okay. $10, $16. That almost seems a little too high. Am I misreading this? No, that looks right. 16. So tags. And then there's way too much around this checkbox. Okay, so we're going to say margin block and 16 pixels. And then around this checkbox, we have this bottom content area. The checkbox has a margin on the top. This VBox, the bottom of the tags row, has a margin bottom of 16. And that's too much. It's too much. We want the last one that's not collapsed. Oh boy. So it could be a keyboard row as well, or collapsed false keyword. There are a couple of collapsed ones here. And the bottom is 16. And then this is too far. What are we going to do about this? Maybe instead of setting the bottom, we should set the top. What's the distance supposed to be between name and the above screenshot? That's 7.5. But we know that name is the first input, right? Yeah. Okay. So what we can do is we can say margin top 16, except for the topmost one, because we know name is always first, and we can use a CSS rule. So we'll say margin block start 16 pixels, except for the first one. We're going to have a distance of 8 pixels. VBox. The rows is, yeah, we're going to say first child. And now I just have to remind myself how first child works. CSS first child. It's the first child. So that's any P that is the first element among its siblings. So I actually have to do it on the VBox. So first child, we'll say margin block start 8 pixels. All right, let's take a look. Come on. What's going on here? Why does it keep shifting focus? Okay. Our first VBox has a margin inline start. Rows. It shouldn't be 16 pixels at the top. Padding 0, 8px, 8px. Or rather, this one should be 8px, 8px, 8px. And then first should be 0. So what is this rule? Edit bookmark panel rows. Should be 8 pixels, 8 pixels, 8 pixels. All right. Still seems like a lot of white space between here. Yeah, that's way too much. 27, 28? That's not what I asked for. Oh, because I still got the margin bottom here. That's why. Margin block start. Margin block and 0. So really it should be just margin block 16, 0. Margin block 0. Restart. Okay. We're getting there. How big is this? That's still too large, I think. 20 pixels. Gosh darn it. 16 margin at the top. Ah, some of the innards have margins as well. That's why. Margin inline start. Let's just say margin 0. No, that's not quite right. Margin inline start. Margin block start. Yeah. Caption label, margin inline start, margin block start. Okay. Painstaking, but we're narrowing in. I think that's actually, that's too high. That's too high. There might be a margin at the bottom of the menu list. The button? No. Why does this seem almost seem so much taller? Tags. Is it because this has dimensions? No, has no dimensions. Margin top of 16. And location, or rather folder, also has a margin top of 16. Okay. Let's just shrink wrap some stuff here. Take a look. Yeah, that's way too high. 21. Why? You got a margin top of 16. What's in between you and you? Is there a margin bottom still? Bet there is. That's what it is. There's still margin bottoms on these things. Yeah. So what I'm going to do, where Where is this coming from? Edit bookmark. CSS on Linux. Are there special cases on Mac OS and on Windows? 5em, 5em. 5em, 0.5em. Okay. So we're going to make all of those only apply if Proton is not enabled. And that's in a file called edit bookmark. Okay, edit bookmark.css. We'll do Linux. We'll do Mac OS. And we will do Windows. All right, let us rebuild. Yeah, we are SmurfD's like down to the nitty gritty. That's exactly right. When you're doing like UI polish, this can all seem like really sort of like, why am I wasting time doing all this polish work? But this is exactly what this project's all about. It's like getting down to the nitty gritty, pixel pushing, you know, to the last pixel. Okay, well, I think we're getting closer. I think I'm gonna finish soon. I'm hungry and I haven't eaten yet. But what I want to do is make sure that there is sufficient margin. The image, yeah, so the image has too much margin. So what I'll do is I will take out the margin rule here. Actually, I'll change the margin rule to be just 0. And then if Proton is not enabled, then we'll say edit bookmark panel image. Oh. Better. Better. This is probably the gap between the top and the header text is probably too high. But you know what? I think I'm going to save that for later. I'm going to cap it here. I need to eat. I can feel my blood sugar just crashing. So I'm going to stop here. But, you know, we've tightened it up. Let's look at the difference. Let's try and look at the difference of what we did today. So here's the after shot. Here, we'll put a nice white background behind it. Hang on, what's the best way to do that? Perfect. Or even better, about blank. Okay, I'll turn off dimensions. Okay, so this is the after shot. Let's look at the before shot. What we'll do is we'll amend our current patch. Smurf. Oh, I didn't even realize that that was a pun, Smurfy. That's how low my blood sugar is right now. You said griddy as in grid. Very clever. I did not catch that the first time. Very nice. Nope. All right, and this is the, or actually let's use the same site as before. This is the before shot. All right. Yeah, it tightens it up quite a bit. There's still more to do. We've collapsed quite a bit of the white space. We've inflated the font and fixed the alignment of a number of things. But there's still more to do here. But incremental progress, bit by bit. Hey, thank you so much for watching episode 244 of The Joy of Coding. I hope that was interesting. You know, let me know what you thought. There is a link here in the agenda to rate the episode. You can send me your thoughts on how the episode went. Maybe if you have questions, I can try and answer them in the following episode. So if you do have questions, if you're watching this recording, if you have questions, maybe put the questions in the form for the most recent episode rather than like if you are watching this like a year in the future. I'm probably not looking at the questions that you put into this episode's form. Rather, you know, send them in for the most recent episode. Maybe I should have a separate form that's not tied to a particular episode or date. I don't know. I'm just trying this question thing out. But also, this is an excellent opportunity to like, subscribe, and tell your friends. So go ahead and do that if you want. And with that, I'll call it here. So thank you so much for watching episode 244 of The Joy of Coding. It's been a pleasure. Have yourselves a great week. Take care. Bye-bye. The Joy of Coding. See ya.